Well, I was born in Israel and I went through a Zionistic socialization and I would say also indoctrination. And with time I realized how Zionism occupied or colonialized Judaism, which is a very big loss, I think, especially because it's a destructive movement, the Zionist movement, with all its nice faces that I also enjoyed, but they are also destructive in a very precarious way. I mean, we would say also, I'm also a psychoanalyst, and in psychoanalysis we're talking also about manic destruction. So, for example, the way that we treat our planet. You can say, it's very nice what we are doing in all this technology, and we can take, flights and whatever, but it is also very destructive because we are not taking care of our planet. So on one hand, it's a new or a very nice phase of modernism and of technology, but it is a manic destruction. And this is also the case with Zionism. So it's important for me to save or to reclaim Judaism from Zionism. I went through Zionist socialization. That means, it is a secular socialization, but it's very tricky because there is this paradox. Amnon Razka-Kotzkin, he's an Israeli historian. He's talking about it, that we all, as Zionists, we grew up with this paradox of there is no God, but He gave us the land. So it's crazy idea, and it's not possible to hold this idea together. For me, it wasn't possible at all. So I'm speaking here, and also politically as a Jew mainly. Yeah. Well, I mean, on one hand, Zionism is secular in that sense that is negating the Jewish identity. This is what made us Israelis to be citizens of Israel. So on one hand, we are citizens of the Jewish state, but our Judaism is based upon the negation of the Judaism. We are non-Jews in that sense, and this is what makes us Jews. This is the identity. In that sense that Zionism is negating the whole Jewish existence in the diaspora, the idea of Zionism, and this is a destructive idea, a manic idea, that we were born anew in Israel. So it's a revival, it's a renaissance. And this idea of being born, from the sea is a narcissistic idea and a manic idea, because no one is born anew. You always have parents, you always have tradition, you always have, ancestors, and that was negated. We didn't learn, for example, in school about all the Jewish history in the diaspora. We learned, of course, about periods when Jews had a sovereignty, which was a very short period. And in that sense, Judaism is a Protestantic movement. It means back to the Bible, and this is how we grew up as Zionists in Israel. So, for example, there were places that we went to these places, and the name of the place was kept by the Arabs for us. This is how we were told, and there was no existence in this place from the biblical time, which is a mythological time, to nowadays, or to 48, let's say. This is when history started. So in that sense, it's a colonial Protestant idea that is based on the work and moral ethics or work ethics of Protestant ideology. This back to the Bible, this concrete thing of having the land, the soil, which is, if you look at the ideology of religious nationalistic people in Israel, they perceive the land as a woman that was, rescued from its conqueror. It's a kind of redemption that we came back to this land and we saved the land, like a body of a woman that was saved by a man who liberated her, and this will bring the Messiah. I mean, this is also their idea. Whereas the idea of Judaism is that Messiah is not going to come. And the issue is waiting for the Messiah. I mean, real Jews, are in waiting position all the time. And Zionism is in that sense also a Christian movement, not only because it came from the Christian world, historically, but also the concept of Zionism is a Protestant concept of having the land, conquering the land, and basing that on the Bible, which is not an important book in Judaism, the Bible. In Judaism, the important book is Talmud. This is a creation that was done outside of the land. And it's important that it's outside of the land because it requires a loss. So, for example, Judaism is based on what we would call in psychoanalysis on a depressive position, which is a position in which you carry the lost with you and you're not manic. In that sense that you know that you're dependent. You're dependent on other people, you're dependent on reality, you're dependent on time, you're dependent on your parents, and they made you and you were not there. Yeah, you didn't brought yourself to the world with your power. You are not that powerless. So the idea of Judaism is the loss, and this is the idea that is enabling us also to create something. We cannot create something if we do not bear in us this loss, and we try to replace the loss with the creation. The creation is a substitution to the loss. And
What loss again?
the loss can be loss of many things. So, for example, if you look at the story of I don't know how you say it in English, the sacrifice of Isaac by Abraham. So Abraham has, God is telling him to sacrifice his son, and he has to give it up. So he's losing, or there is a loss. So, for example, there is a substitution to this loss. Instead of sacrificing people, there comes the vida, the lamb, and he's being sacrificed instead of human beings. And afterwards, it becomes a symbol. So if, for example, you cannot do something, you have to find a replacement. You can write about the things that you would like to do, and you write literature, or you make a film about it. So you're writing a criminal roman, something like that, or you do a film about it. There is God, there is this law, and this is something very important in Judaism. You are able to think whatever you want. There is no prohibition about fantasy and thinking, unlike in Christianity. There is nothing like forbidden thoughts. Yeah? You have to be cautious not to cross the border between a thought and a deed. Yeah? Deeds are forbidden. But thoughts, you're free in your thoughts, and that gives people, a lot of space to be creative. I think also it's not by chance that psychoanalysis came from Judaism and was related to Judaism so much, also because of that. Because what Freud said, we are now in Vienna, what Freud said, it was a taboo, to think something like that was forbidden, to write it, to express it was forbidden. But as a Jew, and also for him it was a replacement. He was not able to work as a physician because of anti-Semitism and suppression in Wien. So we had to find another idea, how to, to nourish his family. Yeah? So, and this is the creative act which is emerging out of a loss. Yeah? He lost the opportunity to be a neurologist in the hospital in Vienna. So we had to be creative in some other way. Yeah, well, Zionism, the idea of Zionism, it's a nationalistic movement. So it created a new construct in that sense that Jews were, before Zionism, Jews were people with a common religion and a common culture. It's not only religion. This is something which is very different from Christianity. If, as a Christian, you go to another church in the world, you don't understand what they are praying because they are talking in Spanish or in German or in English or in some other language. In Judaism, it's not the same, because to whichever synagogue you will go, you will understand what they are praying, and you have a common religion, a common religious language, and a common tradition, and a common mythology. We all Jews belong to these people, and we have a history. Unlike Christianity, it's a high historical, religion. But Judaism is a historical religion, so we all have in common this idea that we were once in Egypt and we were liberated and then we went through the desert. Now, it's a mythology, yeah. It didn't happen. But it is something that we carry with us, and it combines us all together. So no matter if someone is religious or is practicing their religion or not, he or she is a Jew. This is what makes us to be Jews. It's an identity thing, and you are born to that. And you cannot leave it. We don't have a church that you can just quit and say, okay, now I'm secular. It's a European idea that came with the Enlightenment, that you can be secular. But for example, Jews that lived in Africa or in Yemen or in Iraq, they didn't go through this Enlightenment process. And for them, being a Jew is being a Jew. And it doesn't matter whether you're really practicing something or if you believe in something. Also, the whole concept of believing is a very Christian concept. Yeah, you have to believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And I don't have to believe in anything. I am a Jew because I was born as a Jew to a Jewish families, and their ancestors are also Jews. And every time on Passover, this mythology was passed through, and we are sharing a common history. All the Jews in the world, whatever it is, yeah? But of course there are different concepts, and every Jewish community lived in a different place in the world and went through different processes, like Jews, for example, in Vienna or in Austria or in Germany, it's completely different than Jews from Morocco. What Zionism did is actually turning Jews from people with a religion and common culture to a nation, which is a new concept. Jews were never a nation, and Zionism, nation in the sense of, in the context of having a nation state. So Zionism actually internalized the anti-Semitic idea. The Jews are not normal people because they don't have a land of their own. They don't have a concrete territory, which was really something that was very important in Judaism, not to have the land itself. That makes you become more creative, take the culture with you wherever you go. Of course, it comes with suffering. I don't want to idealize that, yeah? But it enables to be more spiritual, more creative, deal less, with concrete things like army or, state institutions. Which makes you also, dependent on the majority.
Like every human does in society.
Yes, but as a minority and as an oppressed minority, it's a different story. So I can also understand the attraction to this idea of we have our own place, territory, or at least autonomy, yeah, where we can decide about our religious life, cultural life. When do we have free days, for example, from school, yeah? There is something nice or pleasant about the fact, that I don't have to coordinate with all other people's when is Yom Kippur. Yeah? So this idea of becoming a nation state was actually an anti-Semitic idea. This is what anti-Semites said about Jews. They are not normal because they don't have a state of their own. They are not attached to a territory, which is, the case for many other people. It's not something unique only for Jews. Yeah? But the internalization of this idea while serving the colonialist powers, the Western powers that we see that are now joining and doing with Israel the genocide in Palestine, this is an idea which is coming from the Christian nationalistic world that says we need a nation state, yeah, where Jews are privileged, have more rights, and this is at the expense of the people who live there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay, you know, if you're coming as a migrant to a place. I also came as a migrant to Germany, and of course, you know, I see it the same as for Jews who are migrant to Palestine. They have to have equal rights, but it's something else if you're a migrant or if you're a colonialist, and that's the major point. If your identity is such that you are coming as a colonialist and you think that you are living in a villa in the jungle, like Ehud Barak said, he was the prime minister of Israel, then you cross the border from being a migrant who want to live together with other people and being dependent upon them to a place in which you are the master, you are not dependent, they are dependent upon you. And this is a manic idea, because at the end, we are all dependent on each other. I mean, there is no way out. Yeah. I mean, everybody also states that think that they are independent and are in this state of mind, manic state of mind, are actually very dependent. First of all, they're dependent on themselves. You have always to maintain this idea that you have the power. You have always to suppress the other people, because this becomes your identity. And with the time, you're also afraid, because, you know, after you suppress so many people, you're afraid that they will take revenge. And of course, they want to take revenge if you do that. So first of all, you are dependent upon them, even if you deny that. You depend upon your power. And the power of Israel is a technological power, military power, and violence. But the society, the Israeli Jewish society, is very weak. Therefore, they have also, it's like a psychotic person. A psychotic person has a very fragile psychic structure, yeah? And he cannot take critique or something into himself, you know, and say, maybe I did something wrong, maybe she didn't smile to me because, I don't know, she had a bad day, or maybe I did her something, I can talk with her. A psychotic person said, she's an enemy, she wants to destroy me, therefore, if you're more paranoid, you know, she wants that, they want to kill me, they want to exterminate me, and it is always something very existential, yeah? And therefore you have always to say, to project to the outside and to say, it's their fault, he did that, she did that, they want to kill me. And when you're projecting, actually, if we think about it, I mean, by psychotic persons, they are projecting these ideas. That means you have internal images, you're sure that there is something bad in you, but you say it's not me who is bad, it's the other one who is bad. Yeah? So you project this internal image on the other. If you're a psychotic, very destructive one with weapon, then you project concretely. You shoot. This is also a kind of projection. Yeah. We also talk about it, you know, in the film industry. Say you're shooting a scene, yeah, because camera, you're also a kind of hunter. Yeah, you're taking picture, you're shooting something, you're catching something. Yeah, you catch a build, and Israel is in a state of mind, I would say, like Germany after Stalingrad, where it's clear that they lost, that they are weak. You know, they were caught on the 7th of October. They were a failed state on that day. Yeah? But they can't deal with it. They can't say, I mean, we did something, you know, we promised our people that we are defending them, that it's a safe place here in Israel for Jews, whatever, yeah? And look, you know, so many people were killed and were kidnapped, yeah? So if they were not in a psychotic state of mind, they would, you know, they could rest a little and say, I mean, what's going on here, and think. They were not, as a society, in a position to think, to stay calm, because it's very threatening, because they cannot take this reality. A psychotic society has to deny the reality, has to project it, when it comes, has to project it on the other, and saying, I mean, it's not me who failed, or it's not me that was bad, it's the others. I mean, when we are talking about denial, it always had, and this is the tricky thing, when you deny something, it means you know it, and simultaneously you deny it. You cannot deny something that you don't know. Okay? So, for example, if we look at children in our development, children learn, first of all, that there is something. It's hard for them to understand there is nothing, the concept of zero. Yeah? You have to show them, look, you see no eyes. Yeah? You have to open the freezer and to show no eyes because they don't understand. So first of all, we learn as human beings that there is something, and then that it's gone, this concept. So the moment you negate something, you say it didn't exist. For example, there is a law in Israel that you're not allowed to talk about the Nakba. Yeah? So it means that the people who made the law, they know that there was a Nakba. Otherwise, you don't have to deny it and you don't have to make a law. Okay? So this is the tricky thing about denial. So on one hand, the Israelis they know that they are the perpetrator. In their deep internal psyche or internal reality, in their psyche, in their internal reality, they know that they are the perpetrator. They know that someone wants to take revenge on them, and it's not only paranoid. They want to take revenge because we expelled them from the country. Yeah. On the other hand, they deny it. Yeah. In the case of Israel was doing. We're not talking about 13 years of doing harm. We're talking about much longer period, and not only directed aggression that is not a destructive aggression, not only directing to the Palestinians, but all over. It's against,
Lebanon, Syria,
Iran today. Yeah, everywhere. So of course you're not spreading love among people. So you also create people who have, maybe they will take revenge. We don't know, yeah? We don't know, but of course the fear is existing, and the fear is not a paranoid fear. Okay, it's a realistic fear, because if you do something like that to other people, if you take their land, they want to have it back. Yeah. So if you will go back, maybe they will not take revenge. We don't know. Yeah, it depends how. This was also the idea, in South Africa. The white people said, the moment we will not control them, they will kill us, and this is not what happened. But time will say. What can I say? Yeah.